transcribing Axel F and arranging it for live instruments. First off, please excuse my rough voice. There are wildfires in California right now, so the air quality is exceptionally bad today in Minnesota. It's a small world, folks. Introduction. Sometimes I get crazy ideas in my head. Like, what if I recorded a cover of Axel F entirely on live instruments? Sure, this kind of thing has been done before. If I ever had an original idea, maybe I'd be the founder of Patreon. Anyway, let's just go ahead and do this, okay? Axel F is a great exercise in learning to do transcriptions by ear, because it has a fairly basic structure, a simple, recognizable melody, and a very deliberate exposition as each new part gets layered on. Harold Faltermeyer composed Axel F for the soundtrack of the 1984 Eddie Murphy film Beverly Hills Cop, and it became an unlikely hit single. It used a lot of then cutting-edge technologies, with digital synthesizers, drum machines, and sequencing, and became a model not just for other film soundtracks of the 80s, but for electronic music to this day. The sounds I immediately recognize in the production are a Lindrum drum machine, a Yamaha DX7 synthesizer for the bell tones, and a Roland Jupiter 8 for the main lead line. According to Wikipedia, a Moog synth was used for the bass, and a Roland JX3P for, quote, chord stab brasses. I don't hear any of what I think of as chord stabs, so I'm guessing this is the sound for the secondary melody. My process. The only really distinct ideas I had about instrumentation from the outset, aside from obviously electric bass and live percussion, were that the lead melody should be on alto sax, and the bell sounds in the bridge should be on, ideally, a tongue drum. I have a tongue drum pitched to an F minor pentatonic scale. That is almost what is needed for most of the song, but unfortunately the bridge section has a few notes outside of that scale, so I wasn't able to play all of it on the tongue drum. With those ideas in mind, I fired up Logic. My preferred method for transcribing parts is to play what I hear in real time onto separate instrument tracks in Logic. Then I export those tracks as MIDI files, which can, sometimes easily, sometimes with tedious difficulty, be loaded into MuseScore for notation. It helps to quantize the notes first, and I also like to use the trim note to remove overlap with adjacent function to prevent accidentally creating multiple voices in MuseScore. But even if you do that, sometimes things get lost in translation between Logic and MuseScore, and you get arbitrary clef changes, unnecessary articulations, excessively precise 30-second note rests, and grand staves when you don't want them. Anyway, even with all of that fiddling around, I find this approach much quicker than trying to lay down the notes directly in MuseScore. Breaking down Axel F. The first 4 bars are simple, just the synth lead stating the main melody. This is the part I want to give to alto sax. But oh, when it repeats, the synth part is doubled. I seriously never even noticed that until I was listening closely in headphones for this transcription. Let's bring in tenor sax to handle that line. The 2 saxes will be important in a minute. We then have a white noise whoosh that I'm going to play as a mallet roll on a suspended cymbal. That takes us into the main bass line, played on a synth bass with an octave effect, along with a shaker sound in the right channel and hi-hat in the left. The shaker and hi-hat play steady 16th notes, but with 2 different syncopated accent patterns. After a few attempts, I gave up on trying to figure out the exact accent pattern, because most likely I won't be able to play it that way anyway. This section ends with hand claps with an echo delay effect. The bass drum enters as this section repeats, and then we get into the main statement of the A section with the doubled lead line, bass, and full drums including snare on 2 and 4. Next we're at the B section, with the bass and drums continuing the same pattern, but a new, busier melody introduced on top. This section is harmonized. I always have a bit of trouble hearing the pitches of inner harmonized parts, but I think I got this right. Note that the score is written in the instrument's respective keys. Oh, and ignore that triangle part for now. I'll get to that in a moment. Now we have a 2-bar suspension, literally, on an F7 sus4 chord. That leads us into a breakdown. Here we drop back to just the bass line and, what is that percussion exactly? It almost sounds like shoe soles squeaking on a basketball court. I think it might be the Lindrum tambourine sound, run through some special effects. Anyway, it's jumping around the stereo field, and the exact rhythm is hard for me to pin down, so I'm just going to approximate it with my one-handed triangle. But wait, this was the moment when I realized that the squeaky sneakers actually snuck in earlier, so I had to jump back and figure out exactly where they first appeared, and it was at bar 25. Here we're given a teaser of the sounds that will be coming at us in the bridge section as we build back up to one more statement of the main melody, in case it wasn't burned into your brain already. But at the end of the phrase, the bass line leads up to our new key. But we don't change key signatures, because we're just going from F minor to the relative A-flat major. Here we're treated to building up layers of DX7 bell tones, the stuff I was hoping to play entirely on my humble little tongue drum, but sadly it has no way to produce a G-flat. I'll have to come up with something else for the tongue drum 2 part. I also don't think I got the bass part exactly right here. The bass notes in the original recording are extremely staccato and get lost under the bass drum. The third main melodic element appears, which I'm giving to Rhodes electric piano, or at least the close approximation offered by my Yamaha Reface CP. I wasn't going to use any keyboards, but honestly, I can't play a line this fast on guitar. Soaring over the top of everything comes a new synth line that seems best suited to clarinet, so here it is. Then we repeat the previous 2 bars as a transition back to... surprise! It's the B section! And once again we repeat 2 bars as a transition to... the final statement of the main melody. In case you forgot it. Did you forget it? No, you will never forget it. I love how this song ends. No conclusion, not even a resolution. He just hit the stop button. Clearly, this piece of music was written for a film score, and the ending was never intended to be heard. But then it became a huge hit single. I wonder how many radio stations actually played the ending, though, or if most of them just crossfaded into the next song somewhere in the last 8 bars. Okay, that's the song. Let's hear my version.